Are you surrendered to the Holy Spirit? There are two types of Christians in the world. One, a Christian who is surrendered to the Holy Spirit, and two, a Christian who is not surrendered to the Holy Spirit. How do you know if you're surrendered to the Holy Spirit? How do you know if you're not? A Christian who is surrendered to the Holy Spirit will, one, have spiritual growth, because where the Spirit is in charge, if you've really let the Spirit take charge of your life, if you've really surrendered, where the Spirit is in charge, there is growth. Two, you will have a burden for the lost, because his heart will be your heart, and the main agenda of God is to save the lost. So if you surrender to God, you will have his desires will be your desires, his concerns will be your concerns, so you will have a burden for the lost. That is a sign you surrender to the Spirit. Another sign is, do you pray often? Because if the Spirit is in charge in your life, he's going to want to be in constant communication with the Father. And we are told that the flesh is weak. If your flesh is in charge, you will barely pray, because the flesh does not want to do it. The flesh is weak, but the Spirit is willing. So if you pray often, you are surrendered to the Holy Spirit. And then, how do you surrender to the Holy Spirit? The first thing you could do is make sure that there is nothing you're hiding from God. Like, pour out your heart about everything. Don't have anything that you have not let the Holy Spirit take charge of in your life. Anything that you have not talked to God about is something that you have not let him take charge of. So that is one way. Talk to God about literally everything in your life. Two is, depend on the Holy Spirit always. Let him take charge of situations in your life, your ministry if you have one, and that reliance is surrendering to the Holy Spirit. Basically, dependence and surrender go hand in hand. If you surrender to the Holy Spirit, you will depend on him for everything. And if you depend on the Holy Spirit for everything, well, you are surrendered to the Holy Spirit. Don't do anything without asking the Holy Spirit. Don't buy anything. Don't talk without telling the Holy Spirit, help me do this. How do I do this? Should I do this? That is how you surrender to the Holy Spirit. You let him take charge. You let him give him your opinions. You let him decide whether you tell you whether to or not to do that thing that you want to do. The reason we have a lot of lukewarm Christians in the world is because people do not surrender to the Holy Spirit. You receive Christ in your heart, his Spirit comes to live in you, but then you don't let him take charge. That is how lukewarm Christians are born. Lukewarm Christianity is basically someone who is stuck in who they are. They don't let Christ live in them. They don't make room for Christ to live in them. They want to live their lives. They want to take charge of their lives. And that is how you know if you're surrendered or not. Do you call the shots in your life, or does God call the shots in your life? Because something the Spirit said was, the lost people in the world need to be delivered from the world, but lukewarm Christians need to be delivered from themselves, because you receive Christ but you don't let him rule in your life. That means you're not surrendered. And look at Matthew 11:28 and 29. A lukewarm Christian comes to Christ. They know Christ. He says, come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. So they come to Christ. But the Christian who is surrendered to the Holy Spirit goes ahead and does verse 29, and they take up the yoke of Jesus. And what is the yoke of Jesus? His burden. And what is the burden of Jesus? To save the lost. That is basically how you know. It's kind of like the main way to know your surrender to the Spirit. Ask the Holy Spirit. Ask help from the Spirit of God to surrender to Him, because it's the only way you will, and you need it.